but I would say that it's the benefits of the Forex market is that it's super duper liquid, and you know, a lot of money does get made there, but a lot of money gets lost. It's a zero-sum game. So that means that, you know, when you make money, somebody else is losing money. When you lose money, somebody else is making money. So I hope you make tons of money. Again, if you go to boycewatkins.com, that's where the Forex link is for the Forex program on Friday. Renee Jackson, is the income that Forex traders consider self-employment income requires a 1099 to be sent to them, and is a license required to trade in the Forex market? No license is required to trade in the Forex market. And that would fit under the criteria of self-employment income. And so ultimately, I would encourage you to go talk to your tax advisor about that. So if you start making money, make sure you find some tax experts you can trust so that you don't end up putting yourself in an awkward situation when it comes to the IRS and all that. What steps would you take to purchase existing businesses from someone? Any recommendations? I would learn from someone who buys businesses for a living. There are probably classes out there on that kind of thing. We have experts at the Black Business School who do that kind of thing as well. Oh gosh, I forgot his name, but we had one guy that came in, all he does is buy businesses. And so if you email support@theblackbusinessschool.com, that's support@theblackbusinessschool.com, our team can guide you to the person that we worked with, an adjunct faculty member who actually literally buys businesses. He's a young guy in his 30s, and he's made millions of dollars just literally buying companies, and that's all he does. Let's see here. Let's see, Doc, did you load up on Square in recent days? No, I didn't, but Square, I think Square is a good investment. Hopefully, if you did, you probably did well, because today the market's really taken off. There's a lot of money being made today. So if you bought Square, I bet you Square is one of those companies that's gone up. Let me see. Actually, let me look it up. Look online. Let's see what the Square stock price is. Let me see here. Price of Square stock. Drum roll, please. Yep, it's up 5% today. Let's see, the last month though, it's gone down by about 20%. The last week it's gone down by 10%. But today it's up again. So yeah, so if you bought Square, then it's doing pretty well. It looks like, what's going on with Square? Let's see, it looks like there's a deal they're making to buy a company called Afterpay, and okay. And the UK is disputing the deal, which could cause problems with Square stock. So right now, in terms of breaking down what's going on with the stock market, let me read some of this to you so you can kind of interpret this and understand what's going on. It says, stocks jumped for a second day, continuing their rebound from a recent rough patch as investors grew less fearful of the potential economic impact from the new Omicron coronavirus variant. Quote, the market certainly, and this morning is another indication, it's just looking past the Omicron variant as something that's going to be slowing down economic activity, but we're still not completely out of the pandemic, said David Solomon, Goldman Sachs chairman and CEO. I agree. I never once saw any evidence to say that the Omicron variant was going to disrupt the stock market. I never saw any evidence of that. Go back and watch anything that I said, during that whole week. I thought it just didn't add up to me. And so I just think this was an opportunity to get in and buy some stocks really cheap. And so if you did, congratulations. British drug maker GlaxoSmithKline, said new data shows its monoclonal antibodies treatment is effective in treating the Omicron variant. Its shares rose 1%. Chipmaker stocks were among the biggest winners, with Intel leaping 3%. Following news that Intel is planning to take the self-driving car unit Mobileye public in 2022. NVIDIA rose 4%, AMD rose 3%. So those companies are in the middle of this chip shortage, which is really interesting. There's a lot sort of happening there with that. And also the chip shortage is driving a lot of this inflation, particularly in things like cars and stuff like that that need chips. Tech stocks broadly were in relief rally mode as investors shook off COVID fears and bought the recent dip. CrowdStrike and Okta gained 5%. If you guys know this, CrowdStrike was actually one of the companies I mentioned. If you follow what Dr. Boyce is buying, which I hope you logged in and took a look at the stocks I recommended. I put this up maybe 2 days ago. CrowdStrike was one of those stocks. So if you went ahead and took that recommendation, congratulations, because it looks like your CrowdStrike is already paying off. How do you determine if a stock is overpriced? Asked Bash D. It's hard to tell. That's the question for the ages. But there are, because there's something called the efficient markets hypothesis, which says that if a stock price goes up, there's a reason that it's really worth whatever it is, because people aren't stupid. Because if it wasn't worth that, then the fact that the information is all public and it's out there means that somebody would realize that and the price would drop. But that, I don't believe that theory completely. I believe stocks can be overpriced. And so sometimes people use things like what they call price earnings ratios. So they might look at the price and compare it to the earnings and say, if you divide the price by the earnings, in this industry, the price earnings ratio is typically 10. Right now, the price earnings ratio, meaning the price multiple to the earnings, is now 20. Right? When historically it's been 10 in this industry. Well, then a lot of people would say either that industry is really expected to grow like crazy, or it could mean that something's wrong, something's mispriced, that investors have overreacted. The investors are a little bit too happy. They're a little bit punch drunk over all the money that they're making. So they're willing to buy anything. Because think about it. When you buy a stock, I mean, do you really have the, feel comfortable having the ability to really know if that $50 stock is really worth $50? What do you compare it to? What, if it was $60 last week, then you might say, look, it's a $60 stock. I get to buy it for $50. But no, really, maybe it's a $50 stock that you got for $50, right? You don't know that for sure, right? So a lot of times we tend to compare prices of today to whatever the price was yesterday, and that's where the people that do the charts and the day trading kind of come into play. Some of that holds merit. Some of those ideas hold merit. Some of them are a little bit witchcrafty, where they kind of say, look at the upward trend, and we think that what goes up is going to either keep going up, or what goes up must come down. There's just different theories in terms of what they expect to happen next. And then sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. But no matter what you do, if you bet on a coin toss, sometimes you're going to be right, sometimes you're going to be wrong. And it's easy for your brain to put together some theory on why you're the best coin flipper out here, right? So the price earnings ratio is one of the measures that are used. It's not specifically just for that stock. They'll look at the whole industry. And if the PE ratios are really high, then they might say this market looks a little bit overpriced. All right, so let's see here. Roderick, is now a good time to buy cannabis stocks? I think it is. I like cannabis. I invest in cannabis on a regular basis because I believe one day it's gonna pop. Let's see. Where were the stock ideas this week? If you log in at theblackstockmarketprogram.com, theblackstockmarketprogram.com, you can actually click on what Dr. Boyce is buying. That comes with your class. And every week I put a list of stocks that I'm buying, stocks that I like. And you can feel free to take a look at that list. These are designed to be long-term investments. These are not just companies that are going to make money tomorrow or next week. They're companies that will probably do well in the next 5 years. So that portfolio should do well over a 5-year period. Whether it does well over a 1-week period, it comes down to luck, to be honest with you. Let's see here. I had bought Tekadu a while back, and the China changed, and I haven't sold it yet. Is there any reason to hold on to it? Oh, Tekadu. Oh, Lord Jesus. Ooh. Oh, man, Tekadu. Now you just bring it back. It's like talking about the horrible girlfriend I had in college. Like every time you bring her name up, I get triggered because it was such a sad experience. But yeah, so Tekadu. Let me tell you a story about Tekadu. Grab a bottle of vodka and I can tell you a bedtime story. So Tekadu is this company that was doing really well in China. I tell you, Tekadu was awesome because Tekadu was doing extremely well in a growing industry, and they were really they were just, it was the options. I used to love selling the options on Tekadu because the options were very highly priced. And so I made weekly income selling the options. If you don't understand how to sell options and all that stuff, feel free to go to stockoptionsmasterclass.com. I think that's the URL, stockoptionsmasterclass.com. I have a whole options masterclass I did that for a weekend that you can take a look at. So anyway, so with Tekadu, the company was going up. It was like 20, 25, 30, 35, right? And it just kept going up every single week. And it was a great company. And then out of nowhere, the Chinese government just decides to come in and broadside the whole industry. China is not a capitalist country. They're not like the United States. They used to act like capitalists for a while, and so people thought they were letting go of communism. They're not. They're really going out of their way to remind you that they're a lot like black people. Black people are not like white people collectively, in my view, because unfortunately, the Eurocentric version of capitalism is very economically centered. Like, you ever notice how like some people from other cultures, like it seems like they'll like literally cut their mama's throat to like get $100. Like they'll cut their family out of the inheritance because, they just didn't like something somebody said, or just do really cold things to each other. I don't think black people are built like that. I think that we are warmer people in certain ways, and I think that's a good thing. And so the Chinese are a little bit like black people in the sense that they understand that there's some things that are more important than money. So what they do is they'll go through and they'll just issue, whenever they see the money kind of controlling things the way it does in the US, they say, we don't want to be like the Americans. In the United States, the tech industry is overwhelming the democracy. The CEOs of companies like Facebook and Twitter and Google have more power than the president of the United States. They banned Donald Trump, which, show they have more power than the president. The Chinese were like, that ain't happening over here. So what they started doing was they started calling in the tech giants and telling them, like, you better slow your roll or we're going to take you out. Jack Ma, who ran Alibaba, who's basically the Chinese Jeff Bezos, got the business from the Chinese government. And they said, look, you say one critical thing, watch how quick we lay you down. And that power is heard around the world. LeBron James is very bold. LeBron James will criticize damn near anything, anybody, anywhere. One thing LeBron James will not criticize is China. He is afraid of China, because China, if LeBron got on TV and said something negative about China, with the NBA making billions of dollars over there right now, because everybody in China loves basketball. It's crazy. If he did that, you know what the Chinese government would do? They would do something really slick. Like they would wait till LeBron came over for a tour and they would detain him for like 3 months. And just be, and then people would be like, well, that's LeBron James. You can't detain LeBron James. They would say, like, well, watch us do it. They do things like that just to prove their authority, just to protect their power. Now, what they did with Tekadu, that murdered Tekadu stock, was they basically looked at the whole industry that Tekadu was in, where Tekadu was making a killing with what's online tutoring. Online tutoring was kind of the new thing. So they just decided that online tutoring was putting too much pressure on the parents. It was making the kids have to study too hard. The kids were not happy. They were stressed out all the time. So they said, we're going to regulate this industry and we're going to make a lot of these companies into nonprofits. They're not going to be for-profit. We don't want for-profit industries or for-profit companies in this industry, which I can't knock that. I mean, I was mad. I was really mad because I lost a ton of money when that Tekadu stock crashed. But I'm not really mad at that because the United States needs to do that too. Like you look at right now, what's going on with all these, companies making billions of dollars every time there's a new COVID variant released. Like it's a money game. It's a hustle. It's a money hustle. They scare you to death and get you, worried or whatever about dying, and they can sell you a new pill and whatever. So you have no business having for-profit companies in your healthcare industry at all, because healthcare companies that are for-profit will put a number on the value of your life. They will put a dollar sign on the amount of money that your life is worth, which is absolutely against our ethics as human beings. So the Chinese are pretty legitimate in that way, and Tekadu got hammered pretty bad. Now, as far as my view on whether you should hold your Tekadu stock or not, that's a personal choice. I don't see any reason why lightning would strike twice and they would actually come in and finish off the company and kill it. Because their stocks dropped down to about $2.50. It used to be up to $31, $32. Now it's down to $2.50. It's not a big deal to have in your portfolio. Maybe leave it there and see what happens. But I'm not telling you to do that. I would say that there are better investments out there that have a greater likelihood of growth. So let's say that a lot of people are just scared to invest lots of money in China. I'm one of them. I'm just kind of like, God, because they're so unpredictable. And the upside of the unpredictability is that it's reducing the prices of all the Chinese companies like Alibaba and JD.com and really good companies. Their prices are deflated because the government is just, like this really scary, crazy parent. It's like having that friend where you say, well, should we have the party at Billy's house? And they say, I don't know, because Billy's daddy's crazy. He might come home, after smoking crack and whatever. He might come home and beat everybody up, right? So the Chinese government is like that. They're like the scary parent, and a lot of people are afraid to invest in China right now. Ray Dalio keeps defending China, but actually someone pointed out that Ray Dalio's fund has a ton of money invested in China, and he too is intimidated by the Chinese government. So the Chinese government has become like the Debo of global financial markets. Debo just rides his bike through the hood and everybody gets scared because they don't know what he's going to do. Like, no, I got $5, right? So the Chinese government has kind of become that Debo. So nobody's going to be honest about China if they're doing business in China. Elon Musk is another example. Elon Musk will criticize the U.S. government all day, every day, and get smart aleck with them. He'll make jokes about them on Twitter, all that stuff. He does not do that with China. He does not play with China. So let me keep going. All right. So that's my theory on what's going on with that company. All right. So one more question, then we're going to call it a day because I got to bounce out of here a little bit early for a meeting. But Ronnie David says, I wanted to take life insurance for my teenage niece. I'm looking at a index universal life policy, IUL, tied to the S&P 500. Locking in the rate at this young age will be beneficial to her. What are your thoughts? She's 16. I think IULs are good. I really do. I think IULs are good. Everything's relative, right? So I would say an index universal life policy, the benefit is that you are tracking the growth of your wealth based on stock market growth, which is good. You're in the game. You're in the stock market game. Even if you're halfway in the game, at least you want to be in the game. Because see, the thing is, a lot of people are not in the game at all. And those are the people that are really going to get killed, right? So the worst mistake you can make when it comes to investing is not bad investing. It's when you don't participate. So you need to tell your relatives that because they're missing out. You can't make it in America by not participating in the accelerated growth of assets. If you do that, if you miss out on that, then you will become food for the capitalist system. They will eat you up. They will use up your labor. They will work you until you're dead so the rich people can go buy a penthouse in Manhattan. So just seriously, I mean, just as a matter of economic survival, you must participate in the ownership of accumulating and appreciating assets that exist all throughout this country. All right, that's first thing. Second thing I'll say, specifically about index universal life policies, the benefit of those policies is that you are tracking the stock market. They put a floor on the amount of money you can lose. They say, look, you can't lose. You can't ever go into the negative in many of these policies. But then they also put a cap. Remember, every time they give you something, they got to take something away. So don't think that nothing's free. Nothing's free in the financial markets or really in the real world. Nothing ain't free, right? Teach that to your daughters, right? If a guy buys her a Gucci purse, just let her know, baby, nothing ain't free. Right? Or nothing ain't free. Nothing's free. Maybe I should have said nothing's free. But anyway, you all get the point. That's what I tell my girls. So the same thing is true with index universal life. So what they do is they give you a floor, and they say you can't lose more than X amount of dollars. But then they give you a ceiling. That's the trade-off. You can't make more than X amount of dollars. So they'll cap it, maybe 15% or something like that, which is not bad. That's not terrible. And then what happens is you just pay your little life insurance every month, like a bill, treat it like a bill, treat it like a car note, except this car is going to drive you to financial freedom. It ain't going to drive you to your mama's house. It's going to drive you to the land of financial freedom. And you just pay it like a car note. You do it for years and years and years. And what happens is that during that time, you have the death benefit. You have a lot of other benefits that relate to disability and everything else. So she's protected in that regard. But then also that money's growing, that cash value is growing, which gives her the ability to be her own bank. She then has liquid assets she can dive into whenever she has a financial problem, which right there will put her ahead of 80% of all Americans, or 70, 80%. I don't know what the percentage is, but at least half of all Americans don't even have a basic emergency fund they can lean on when times get hard. Why is the emergency fund very important for Black people? Well, because white people are mean to you. Like, they will fire your Black ass on your day off. Excuse my French. I'm sorry, but I'm telling you, y'all know what I'm talking about. They keep you, the world. And I'm not saying that white people are bad. And this is not anti-white. I'm not here to get into that. Well, it's really pro-Black. How about that? You have to be secure. You have to have a backup plan. You have to have a plan B. And a lot of times the reason that they control you is because you don't have a plan B, right? You want to ask yourself, if I lost this job, what am I going to do? If something goes wrong in my household, what am I going to do? If you marry somebody, this is something I would tell any young person. If you think about marrying somebody, picking somebody as your partner, or do they think that way? Do they have safety and security and backup mechanisms to protect the family in case something goes wrong? So I would encourage you to really understand these ideas and think about these things. Index universal life is what is the universal life symbol? I don't think there's a symbol for it. It's not like a stock, Linda. It's like a policy. You get it from an insurance company. If you call an insurance agent and say, I want an index universal life policy, I want to look into that, they'll know what you're talking about, because they sell these financial instruments all over the place, and I don't think that they're bad. I've researched them, and it's not the best way to make money per se, but again, it's better than nothing. It's better than what most people do. Most people don't do anything, right? So and also wealth accumulation works best when you just do it in the background, like you just do it on autopilot and you're not even thinking about it. and you just let 10 years go by, and you're like, oh, look at this, we got $80,000 over here. If something goes wrong, or Billy needs $5,000 to start his business. Well, we can get 5,000. It's not like it's gonna cripple the family. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Same thing with buying a home. That's why I'm a big advocate of home ownership, because you just buy your house, you're just paying your mortgage every month. The value's going up. Now you've got you've got a little bank you can go to when you need money. Unfortunately, for a lot of families, that equity gets eaten up. I just think about people I know who've lost their equity because maybe they had a son, they got in trouble, and they needed the money for, to get their son out of jail or whatever. So people put their houses up and stuff like that. But if you don't have a son that goes to jail every 6 months, then it actually becomes another great source of financial security that can allow you to make investments. It can allow you to start businesses. It can allow you to quit your job if you want to. You just feel a little bit better about life because you're not trapped. Okay, I have concluded thoroughly. I thoroughly believe that a great objective that we can agree on for your life is happiness. And I also believe that happiness is linked directly to freedom. And I also believe that freedom is directly linked to financial security. So in that area, financial security isn't the only kind of freedom, but that's one big type of freedom. Maybe there are other kinds, like in terms of mental health and all that. But that is that's I think a pathway I can recommend that will give you what you want out of life. And then at that point, you can fill in the details in terms of what exactly makes you happy. So seek happiness. That's what I tell my kids. They say, well, what do you think I should be when I grow up? I'm like, I want you to be happy when you grow up. Like, I don't care if you're a nurse or an engineer or whatever. I just want you to be happy. You shouldn't define yourself based on what career you're in. That's an American thing, by the way. That's only an American thing. Like, because we have the industrialization trained us to define ourselves by what job some white man gives us, right? So if I'm a lawyer, I feel like I'm better than you because you're a carpenter. But if I'm an unhappy lawyer and you're a happy carpenter, who's really winning that game? If I'm unhappy and I'm financially insecure, which I know a lot of lawyers who are in that space, went to Harvard and all that, financially insecure, very unhappy, overworked, family life is messed up. But yet you're doing something else that I think is beneath me, and you're satisfied with your life in every way. Who's winning, right? Who got the right education? I learned how to be a lawyer from Harvard, but maybe somebody taught you how to be happy. I would take that second skill over the first one in a second. Okay. All right. So I'm going to get out of here. Log in if you want to see the recordings of any of these sessions that we've done. There's hundreds of them by now. Probably you can go log in at the blackstockmarketprogram.com, or if you go to boycewatkins.com, a lot of that stuff is on that page. And I'll see you guys next week. Every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, we have our stock market investment talks. You can leave me your questions. If you log in at the blackstockmarketprogram.com, you can put your question in there. I will research it, look it up, and I will be ready to answer it next week. So take care, everybody. Love you. I will see you soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.